this past week I've been working on a project, and like it's a culmination of a whole bunch of different things. It's my first like real foray into like doing a full character animation in Cinema 4D and stuff, and it's been a lot of fun. I just kind of wanted to talk about some of the caveats and stuff that I've realized doing some character rigging and stuff. So it's my first like big, from beginning to end, character animation stuff. And it's funny. So like I've done all the little things before, like, oh, I've modeled a character. Oh, I've done some hair stuff. Oh, I have weight painted things before, like once or twice. I've motion tracked a scene, and put something in it. I've also, brought a pre-rigged character into it using Mixamo and stuff. But this is my first foray into like taking a character from like modeling it from scratch and then weight painting it, rigging it with bones and stuff like that, and then doing the animations and blah 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 blah. It's been a lot of work, and it's actually been. Oh, I don't need to do that yet.
Sorry.
One yet. That's all right. But yeah, it's been a lot of fun, and I used to give C4D crap for not having great like animation tools. And maybe they don't, but
you don't mean animation tools. You mean
like character tools, right? Like rigging tools and stuff like that. And I used to give it crap, but like, I didn't find this to be actually too terribly difficult. They've got a auto rigger, that is for both quadruped and bipedal. And, normally if I'm doing like a bipedal, character or something like that. I've done a bunch of stuff for David Lopez. He's a YouTuber, where I'm like taking characters like modeled characters, and then I'll throw them into Mixamo and then take the different animations and stuff. And that's easy. But it's like this time I actually went through and I rigged the entire thing and weight painted it, and I didn't find it to be too bad. Like everyone has complained about character stuff, and it's like, maybe we're just the problem. Maybe cinema's not the problem. Maybe we're the problem.
I'm the problem. Because it's me.
Yeah. I just think I think it's interesting because maybe there's not a ton. Of course, I don't do. This is my first foray into like full character animation by myself doing it. I've never used another program like Blender or Maya in order to do it, but I have found it to be surprisingly, intuitive once you understand weight painting. That's the biggest thing. I went through years and years ago doing some weight painting stuff, so I have a pretty good understanding of it. I tried the quadruped auto rigger that they have, but it didn't work well. It wasn't super intuitive. The walk cycle looked weird, so I was like, I need a lot of control over this, so I'm just going to do it myself. The hair system in C4D was surprisingly robust. One thing that I wish they would change though is when you're rescaling your character, when you're scaling it by object or whatever, it does scale the length of the hair correctly, which is great, but it doesn't scale the thickness, because the thickness is based off of a material instead of the actual hair item inside of cinema. So when you scale it up, you have to adjust, either your hair or you take your pre-tracked scene. And then what I've been doing, and this is a little quick tip here. So I've been taking my scene, I'll take one of my characters and I'll scale it up to whatever I need it to be, and then I'll delete that character. I'll have copied the scale, and then I'll go in and resize my entire scene to match that scale. So I don't have to go into the hair over and over again and change, multiply it or divide it by so-and-so amounts, and it's worked really well for me. And also motion clips. Motion clips are freaking awesome. Oh yeah,
motion clips are great.
Dude, I've used motion clips before, with Mixamo characters and stuff like that, and it's been great. But like this is the first time it's like, okay, I'm doing all the animation. I'm doing the run cycles, I'm doing the walk cycles, I'm doing the jumping, I'm doing the sitting, I'm doing all these things, and being able to just bring them into cinema and say, okay, here, now blend in between this one, now blend in between this one. It's like if you know what animations you need and you've already got them pre-built. What's great is like now that I have them, I built them as one project, you know, and I've got like 10 scenes that I have to do. So it's like, okay, I've built them all now in one project. I can bring them into the 10 scenes that I have to do and just mix and match. It's been super nice. Motion clips are great. And then the biggest issue I ran into was with motion tracking. You know, normally what I'll do, some of the stuff that David Lopez sends me is just relatively easy to track. You know, you've got a lot of tracking because it's mostly outside. So tracking outside stuff is cake. You know, there's lots of information there. But this stuff that this client sent me was highly reflective, which sucks.
Oh, that's the worst.
When you're tracking floors and stuff like that, you know, 90% of the time when you're just doing tracking, it can track really well. Most software
so
can.
You didn't have any markers? Is that the
I didn't have any markers because I was...
Yeah, that sucks.
Oh, yeah, well, the scope got... there was a little bit of scope creep on the project, which is fine. You know, like I kind of told myself that for me, this was a project where it's like, okay, I'm going to do this from beginning to end and I'm really excited about it, you know? So like, I'm going to take extra time just because I want it to look good, you know, and I'm not necessarily going to charge my client for it because it's something that I want to be proud of, you know? Anyway, so with the motion tracking, normally I'd take it into After Effects. I'd track my scene. I'd create a point and then export a camera into Cinema, you know, and then use that Cinema scene from After Effects in order to bring in my project. Well, with this, After Effects wasn't seeing anything. Like it would fail every single time. And there was a lot of movement on the camera and like, you know, different focal lengths and stuff like that. So I tried PF Track. You know, you're a big fan of PF Track. I've known that from the past.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So my biggest issue with PF Track was that it wasn't super intuitive. Like, you know, they've got a whole node-based system and stuff like that, and it wasn't like really easy to understand. But I was impressed with the price. It was like, you know, normally... I will say one nice thing about the subscription model that a lot of people have gone to is that if you need a software for just 1 month, it's very easy to incorporate that cost into the project, you know, versus like buying an entire software package for one project really sucks. Like, for example, PF Track normally is like, what, $500 or
$1,500 a year.
No, it's probably I think it's gone down significantly since then.
Right.
Because it's probably around like maybe $150 or something like that a year. But this one, it was $15 a month. And I was like, oh, $15 a month. I can easily throw that away even if this doesn't work, you know? And so I spent a lot of time, you know, trying to get one specific shot tracked, and it just wasn't doing great. I went on to our Slack channel. If you're not a member of our Slack channel, you should email us and we'll send you a link. But on our Slack channel, I just asked, I was like, hey, what's everyone using for tracking? And so, and the good majority of people were like, use Synthize. You know, it's a Boris.
I'm surprised that's still Synthize. Wait, Synthize is Boris?
Yeah, it is now. Yeah, they bought them a little while ago. You know, Boris is all about like, you know, tools for compositing and stuff like that. Right. You know, the 3D motion tracking and the Mocha stuff, and now Synthize, like all of it together is pretty powerful. So I did. Unfortunately, that one was $50 a month. So. Yeah. I did a test of that, and what was awesome about it is you just hit auto, and it auto does it. Like, it was perfect. You know, it was super nice. There was maybe 1 or 2 shots where I had to actually physically go in and do some markers myself.
Does it still have the big green button in Synthize, like the
it does, yeah,
or whatever it is?
It just says auto, and then like, you know, as you're up. Yeah. It's a really good program. I really liked it. So big shout out to Synthize for helping me, you know, get through this. And going back to subscriptions, you know, like I said, I was really happy that, you know, the monthly stuff. I wish there was more companies who understood the need for like a monthly versus a yearly. The one I'm calling out in particular is KeyShot. I've got one client who loves KeyShot. Dave, I don't know if you've ever used KeyShot. It's pretty awesome, I do have to say. And for creating stills and
Right.
For like almost like product visualization and stuff like that, KeyShot is fantastic, and it is so smoking fast for doing just like a still render,
Right.
And the biggest thing with KeyShot is it comes with a slew of like pre-made materials. So it's like you need a glossy hard plastic, you need a soft hard plastic, or something like that. And it's like all of those are there for you to just take, and it looks super photoreal, And but that one is like, I've got one client who uses that, and I was like, hey, I'll use KeyShot if you want me to, so he hit up his person. He's like, hey, can we get a 15-day trial, or full license? They're like, oh yeah, sure. But then of course they had my email, and they emailed me nonstop about getting a license. And I look and I'm like, dude, I would have bought a monthly subscription, already had you had a monthly subscription.
Right.
But it's like, I'm not going to pay $1,100 for a software, for 1 year.
Right.
If I'm only going to use it maybe twice a year, And
I did that last year or the year before with PF Track. It was like I had a track that was so incredibly impossible. It should have been the easiest track in the world, but there was just hours of trying to get it to work, and it was a 2D track, and I couldn't get it to work. It was insane. And it was the same thing. It's like, okay, now I've got to buy PF Track for $1,500 to make this work.
Yeah.
And now apparently they've changed it since, but
Yeah. Synthize is great, And so so I wish everyone would take a cue from it, even with cinema. For me right now, I'm just on the monthly one because I don't know, I've been doing so much different work, whether it's just like After Effects or even being gone at camp for a week and a half. It's like I'm not going to be using cinema while I'm there, so it's like I may get to a point where I don't use it long enough to where I actually save some money,
Yeah, you look an on-off button, and then you just pay for how many days you had the on-off button earlier,
Also, the big thing is like, the Maxon one, I wish they would do this. It's something that irks me a lot, is that and this is a lot of people in the C4D subreddit have talked about. It's like, I don't like that you have to subscribe to Maxon 1 in order to get the full version of cinema with all the different like nodes and capsules and stuff. If you don't, you don't get all the capsules. But if I want to use Red Giant on a different computer, I can't. I have to have a separate sub for it. So it's like, I'll subscribe monthly, and McGavran and team may be happy about this because they probably end up making more money off of me, but I will only subscribe to C4D by itself and Red Giant by itself when I need them, so that I can run two computers at once.
Oh, I see. Yeah.
Anyway, but I also want to give a big shout out to Silverwing for his he did an Octane custom AOV compositing tutorial. Make sure and check that out. It is so cool. So I don't know if you've used the custom AOV stuff in Octane yet. Dave, have you?
A little bit, yeah.
It's pretty fantastic. So it's like, I was trying to, like, I had a floor where I needed both the reflections and like a shadow catcher as well, and I was able to use the compositing stuff inside of Octane instead of having to render multiple takes of stuff. I can render it all as one AOV pass, which is pretty fantastic. It's really, really cool. So that's my I'm super excited to have this done. It's been on my plate for like a month or so, working on it, and it should be out at the end of the month. So make sure if you want to check it out, like once I've got it done, follow me on my MoGraph account, mattmilstead.mograph.com, and then I'll be posting like a project breakdown and stuff like that on there.
Yeah, follow me too. I'll be posting game videos instead. No, I do have some breakdowns. Before I went in the hospital, I actually was in the middle of doing a really fun breakdown video on something, and I just lost interest. I'm just taking a break from posting design stuff for a while, but I'll go back to it eventually. I'm going to
do what you love, man.
Yeah, well, I'm going to talk
video
about
games.
some of the things that I learned actually later in the show about this, but I do enjoy doing this stuff, but I'm just fortunate to have work right now. And so I'm just posting gaming videos because I don't have time to do breakdowns of things. Yeah. It's easy to post a 30-second gaming video. It's so fast. To make a breakdown video takes a long time.
It does take a long time. Yeah. It does take a long time.
Plants and chairs, John Haley. That's right. Plants and chairs.